Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Perspective with me, Julie Ali, and today, the 7th of October, is World Sight Day. We also know that on the 28th of September we observed Retina Day, so that's what we're going to be concentrating on in the show this morning with two amazing ladies from Retina, South Africa. They are Claudette MedeFindt and Linsey Engelbrecht. They're going to be sharing part of their stories with us, but they're also, more importantly, going to create awareness about eye care, and if and when you or a family member is being plagued by eye disease, the importance of getting medical help as soon as you possibly can. So let's start with Claudette MedeFindt. She is a patient advocate and the head of Signs for Retina South Africa. She's also the National Secretary of Retina South Africa and a secretary to the Scientific and Medical Advisory Board. And the list goes on. So let's introduce her to you, and she can tell us more about how she has found herself in this space, why she's here, and the difference it's making not only in her own life, but scores of other lives as well. She, with the work she's done in terms of service, has helped other people regain their sight, or at least regain partial sight, and truly enjoy a very, very good quality of life. That, of course, is Claudette MedeFindt. The other guest is as amazing. She is Linsey Engelbrecht, and I understand that she is really a triathlete, and she has played, she's represented South Africa at the Commonwealth Games. So let's start with Claudette first. Good morning, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Julie. Salam alaikum to all your viewers, and it's so great to be back and be with such a familiar face and such a good interview, and we delighted to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you indeed. Wa alaikum salam to you. And yes, I think the last time I spoke with you was pre-COVID, so it's great to see you and great to see that you still look the same. Thank you, God.
Thank you. That's such a compliment. It's really wonderful. And you know, people always wonder, how do you see?
That's
it's how you see me. That's more important.
Absolutely. Linsey, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the program. And both of you ladies, I'm actually in awe of all of the achievements you've been able to make in your lives right up to now. So I'm so pleased that you are here, because I think by way of chatting to both of you ladies on the show this morning about something really important that lots of us take for granted, I think you're going to be an inspiration to people watching us, and of course those people who have impaired sight listening to us this morning and realizing the importance of sight. So let's start with you, Claudette. How have you found, you know, what was your life journey all about that has led you to be here at this point in time talking to me about World Sight Day? And obviously it was also Retina Awareness Day about 2 weeks ago.
Well, Julie, you know, I grew up in a family where there were many people who had vision loss. In fact, they were suffering from a disease called retinitis pigmentosa, but we have a dominant form in our family, so although it occurs in many generations, it's not quite as severe. But one of the early symptoms is very poor night vision. And when I was growing up, of course, in the 50s, we didn't have TV. We played in the street, and we played in the street in dusk. And I didn't cope. If we played games, I was always caught, or I was running into rose bushes. So the old aunties would nod their head and say, yes, that child has got that eye disease. We didn't know what it was or what it was called. And slowly, as I grew up with sight loss, and I knew I had sight loss, because nobody has to tell a child that they've got sight loss. They know that they're not coping as well as other children. And then as I grew up, we heard this terrible name, retinitis pigmentosa. And as I approached marriage, I thought, well, it's obviously genetic because other people have got it. And I looked at who had it in the family, and I decided it was only hereditary through the male line, and of course I was completely wrong. It's not gender-based. Either men or women can have it. So when I got married and had 2 children, I was horrified to see that both my boys had inherited my retinitis pigmentosa. And that was probably when I realized that I had a job to do. I had a calling. And I had heard about the start of the worldwide move to find out about the retina, because before the retina movement began internationally, they didn't even look at the retina. It was too complex and too minute for anybody to study. And as our knowledge is improved, of course the technology is improved, and people have suddenly realized that there are many conditions that lead to loss of vision that involve the retina. And so although we started in 1980 as the RP Foundation, we realized actually that retinitis pigmentosa wasn't the only condition that was genetic. Things like Stargardt disease or cone-rod dystrophy. We also then went into age-related macular degeneration, which affects people over the age of 50 with loss of central vision. And then we also are now involved with diabetic retinopathy. And you know, South Africans, because of our poor diet and poor lifestyle, are very prone to type 2 diabetes. And we know from COVID that COVID has had a big impact on increasing people's risk of getting diabetes. And if you have diabetes, if you don't control your insulin and you don't control your weight and your cholesterol, etc., you will get diabetic retinopathy. And now we're also looking at trying to raise awareness of the vision loss that children are getting because of our technology, which is smartphones, etc. So we have now got thousands of people on our books, and Retina South Africa offers a really comprehensive service of support and counseling and education and referral and advice, because your lifestyle has a huge impact on the rate of your vision loss. And of course, more recently, we're now looking at the very important mental health side of it, because we know it's not only your vision that's impacted, your self-esteem, your loss of job, your loss of your relationships. And luckily for that, we've got this most eloquent young lady next to me called Linsey, who's really looking at that side of things. So perhaps you'd like to speak to Linsey about mental health. I will speak with
her in a short while, and I think mental health obviously is such a huge issue, and I think people are now beginning to realize that we need to be more supportive of people with mental health issues. We should stop marginalizing them, and we should also accept the fact that mental health is not contagious. And I think that's such a crucial issue, because people with any form of mental health are truly marginalized, and they just kind of fall out of society completely. They just fade away into the background. We will get to Linsey in a minute or two, but I need to touch on something really important with you. You indicated that when you were little, you had, or with your condition rather, you had very poor night vision. But that is also a problem with people who are aging. Their night vision is compromised. Can you give us more information on that? We don't want people who now at 60 years old find that they're suffering from poor night vision, and they shouldn't start panicking, that perhaps that is a sign of old age, perhaps, I don't know. What is that indicative of if a 50 or a 60-year-old person says, I have very poor night vision? What is that saying to you?
Well, not only night vision, things like central vision, contrast vision, these at an early age can be indicative of a serious problem. And I do believe that every child, before they go to school, should have an eye test. A child does not know what normal vision is. Normal vision is what they see. So they don't realize
it's normal for them.
It's normal for them. So they don't know if they've got good or bad vision or in between that. So what they need to do, I think, every child, before they start grade 1, should actually have a good eye check to see, because a lot of children who are actually in the schools for the partially sighted all they need is refractive error correction, like you are wearing a pair of spectacles. They've never had an eye check and they end up in a school for the partially sighted. So we need to be more proactive about getting children an eye test. In certain conditions, like in retinitis pigmentosa, one of the early symptoms is poor night vision. But as you get older, the photoreceptors in your retina, we've got two types, rods and cones. Rod vision is what starts being affected first in retinitis pigmentosa. Rods are responsible for night vision. Cones, which are in the center of the retina, are more responsible for central vision and color vision. So those in early stages can lead to various forms of disease. But as you get older, the function of your rods and cones both are affected. So it could also mean, for example, if you're very young and you've got retinitis pigmentosa, you may be born with hearing loss, then you've got what we call Usher syndrome. But it means if you start developing hearing loss in your 65, you don't have Usher syndrome. You just that as you age, these very fine-tuned senses of ours start malfunctioning, or maybe not functioning.
Aging as well.
Absolutely, they are aging.
And that's where we're going to leave it. We're going for our first ad break. Two amazing ladies in the studio with me, Claudette MedeFindt and Linsey Engelbrecht. They're talking about Retina South Africa, talking about different eye diseases, Retina Awareness Month that just passed, but also it is World Sight Day today. So do stay with us. There's lots to learn throughout the interview this morning. Welcome back. We're going to cross over to our second guest in studio today. Her name is Linsey Engelbrecht. She is a visually impaired triathlete and she's also involved with Retina South Africa. Welcome, Linsey, and gosh, you have quite a story, have you not? I mean, firstly, let me congratulate you and commend you for having represented South Africa at the Commonwealth Games, obviously, as an impaired triathlete. What's your condition? How did it impact the better part of your life, or the early years of your life, and has now led you to be involved with Retina South Africa, but more importantly, that you are a triathlete and very sporty from what I hear, playing bowls, involved in golfing, golf coaching, and a whole host of other sporting activities.
So I do have a condition, Stargardt's macular degeneration, and I was born with it, but I was only diagnosed when I was 23. And I'm left currently with only about 10% central vision. However, my peripheral vision is still really good, and I've adapted really well. We call this an invisible disease. You would look at me and really, she doesn't have central vision, or she's visually impaired. You know, it's a bit unbelievable for most. But I've adapted really well, and to be honest, I really only dealt with having my condition and accepting it in 2018, and it took me a long time. I felt like I couldn't talk about it. However, I feel that...
How old were you when you were aware of the fact that you have a problem?
Well, like Claudette said, that when you're a child, you don't know what's right and what's not wrong, and what you can see and what you can't see, and what's normal. So, I mean, I remember having glasses as a child. I remember preferring to sit up front in the classroom, but you know, I just thought that was the norm. And it was only in my early 20s we'd noticed I'd started moving a little bit closer to the computer, and a little bit closer and a little bit closer, and my mom said to me, there's definitely something going on here. And we started exploring, and we did see quite a few ophthalmologists, and I was diagnosed at 23 with Stargardt's, and yeah, and I've had an incredible journey since. It really has been a roller coaster ride. You know, right from denial to now accepting what I have, and I believe that I have this condition because I'm able to encourage and give hope and share my story and what I've achieved, and yeah, just to bring some light.
You're saying there's a reason and a purpose for you being here today, sitting on that couch talking to me, because you're here to inspire and give other people hope that find themselves in a similar situation as yourself. But can you give us an idea in layperson's terms as what exactly is your condition? You talk about not having central vision but peripheral. What is your everyday, and as you're speaking with me this morning, what are you seeing and what are you not seeing?
Okay, so the light behind you is incredibly bright for my eyes. So my eyes are very sensitive to light. Your face at the moment, I can't see your face. So I can see your scarf, you know, I can see you, but I can't see any detail. So the central vision is what's missing. You would often see, if I'm looking at you now, I might be looking up. So my eyes are above your head because I'm using my corrected vision to try and make out what I'm seeing, but it is really just a blur for me. You know, for me to see someone quite clearly, even Claudette sitting here, I would have to come a little bit closer to see her face, and you know, a little bit more clear. It is a bit of a blur. I can see her more clear than what I can see you. So I don't use a cane. I don't have a guide dog, but the central vision is non-existent. So things like reading, it really has become non-existent. However, there are a lot of aids out there. And I have stopped certain things, but like
driving, for example. I'm sure you can't do that any longer.
Yes.
What about everyday other chores, for example, cooking? And how old are your children? I'm trying to think of when your kids were little, when they were babies. How did you manage all of those tasks of yours? It may sound so very mundane to people watching us this morning, but a huge event in your life, undoubtedly. Share that with us, please, if you don't mind.
So one thing I always like to share is that my life cannot be spontaneous. So I can't decide now I want to go here or go to the shopping centre, and that I have to plan everything. I have to use transport like Uber or my support system, which is my husband, and you know, you have to plan that. You can't just say right now let's do this or that, let's do that. So my life is really planned. I have to plan things. In terms of cooking and that sort of thing, so I use aid. So my phone is really my best friend. I would photograph the recipe, I would enlarge it. I use my tablet a lot for that as well. I have a lovely device called a Pad Perch. It's quite a nice device that we use, that we could use as a magnifying, you know, with our phone and our tablets, to help us. And I don't know. I mean, I've adapted well, I feel. So, you know, having a child and all of these things, you know, wherever I needed help, I would ask my husband and he would help me. So if there was something I can't read, so medicine bottles, you know, on your formula, you know, what's, you know, the measurement of how much to put in, I would just hand that over to Dion straight away. I mean, I wouldn't even try because it becomes so frustrating and I don't want to make a mistake either. So just ask him, he would help me, and then it would be done. But I really haven't felt that, you know, this is put me at a disadvantage in life. You know, I've really tried to make the best of each situation, and it is what it is. It's happened. I can't undo it, and I think if you don't deal with it and you don't try and make the most of what you've been dealt with, you can be quite, you can find yourself in a very depressing state.
And probably become horribly bitter as well. To both of you, definitely. The all-important question is, when you are, you know, born with a disease like this, which obviously progresses, there's no cure for it, and you've got to live with it for the rest of your life. Amazing people like yourselves cope, you find ways of coping, and both of you have really made strides in your own personal lives and gone on to touch other people's lives in a very positive way. But as you were growing and interacting with people, did you find that with perhaps your close circles around you, there was maybe resentment, marginalization, the fact that because of your impairment, certain people were probably focusing way too much on you and giving you a lot of attention, and that then brought out resentment and marginalization from other people towards you? Did that happen to you, and how did you cope? You first, and then we'll come to you, Claudette.
So as I mentioned, I really only started accepting what had happened to me in roughly 2017, 2018, and I say that only because I never enjoyed talking about my condition, explaining to people what can I see, what can't I see, and
Do you think people picked up on that and realized there was something amiss here, but didn't want to intrude and not ask you?
Well, I specifically did that because I didn't want any pity from anybody. I never wanted I feel so sorry for you and oh, shame. It's, you know, it's a terrible thing that's happened. I never wanted any of that. So I would just not talk about it. And yes, I mean, obviously there were certain things like I would look at them and I would have to look above their head so I could see their face. So I'm sure people did pick up on it. The close family and friends around me did know, and my running group, I needed to obviously tell the people that I ran with to obviously help me, you know, with potholes and cat's eyes in the road, and if we were running in the dark, you know, this and this and this. So people around me, close friends and families, knew about my condition. But like I said initially, this isn't a visible disease. So unless I'm telling someone about what is my condition, people are it's difficult to understand what I'm going through. And sometimes it's a bit long-winded to having to try and explain what's actually the issue.
And I'm glad you're here because you both can share coping mechanisms with our viewers this morning. Can I switch over to you, Claudette, and ask what was your story like?
Well, you know, I lived what I thought was a pretty normal life. I couldn't see the blackboard because part of retinitis pigmentosa is you don't see poor contrast. So that, you know, that smudgy chalk on a blackboard you can't see. So I just remembered. I trained myself to remember, to actually, and I've still got a very good memory. So people at work still question me, how do you remember that? And I say, well, I had a lifetime of learning. And, you know, people sometimes think, oh, that clever blind person has got good hearing. We've trained ourselves to hear properly because we listen. Because if you can't see, your other senses are needed. But growing up, because it's this type of RP that I've got is quite slow, I was playing hockey for the then under 21 Eastern Transvaal. You know, we had the Transvaal team.
Yes.
And by 25, I wasn't selected for the first hockey team. So I'm not a second team player. So I dropped hockey and took up yoga.
Right.
And it impacted me because I had to stop driving at night, first of all, and then I had to stop driving and during the day. But with RP, because your central vision is good, again, Linsey says you look normal. You know, people still don't believe I've got less than 10% vision, but your mobility is affected because as the rods on the outside of your eyes start to deteriorate, your vision narrows until you end up with what we call is tunnel vision. And this symbol cane has been my savior. Because not only can it help me find a step in the dark, but it tells people that you've got a visual disadvantage. So half the thing is that people don't understand, and even when they do, my friends mocked me. We used to go to movies and they used to run away and hide because they knew I couldn't see in the dark.
Isn't it awful how people can be so cruel in their innocence, thinking it's just a light-hearted prank, but not realizing the impact on the person concerned. But believe it or not, girls, time for another ad break. We'll be back in a minute or two. Amazing women in studio with me this morning, Claudette MedeFindt and Linsey Engelbrecht. They're talking about their specific conditions regarding their eyes, and of course they're both from Retina, South Africa. And after the break, we're going to be talking about Linsey's amazing achievements, so don't go away. Welcome back. We're talking to two amazing ladies. They're both with Retina South Africa. Let's talk now with Linsey Engelbrecht. I mean, I was just absolutely amazed when I'd heard that she's a triathlete with the poor vision that she has, the amazing achievements she's had thus far in life. She's also married, she has 3 children, and a life that is pretty full. Linsey, you're quite a sportswoman, aren't you? I mean, it speaks for itself. You're an impaired, well, a visually impaired triathlete, but you represented South Africa at the Commonwealth Games. Did you find that as you were growing up, you needed to do something to prove that you're okay. You're as okay as everyone out there on the street. Was that what drove you, or do you just feel, I'll do the best I can?
Well, that is an interesting question, because I was never sporty. I played the school sports, your tennis, your netball, that sort of thing. But when I left school, I didn't really get too much involved with sports. And it was only when I met my husband, and he loves sports, and he's a fundi with sports, and he said to me, we have to do something. And I couldn't even run 2 kilometers around a park in Kensington called Rhodes Park. I was miserable. I couldn't do it. And I just persevered, and I persevered, and I persevered. And I had a bucket list, and one of the things on the bucket list was to run comrades. And at that stage, I didn't actually know anything about parasports. I didn't know that you could run with a guide. I didn't know that anything like that was available. And I think that was maybe a little bit also part of my denial. So I just carried on, and in fact, I trained on my own. And eventually, Dion, my husband, said to me, you've got to join a running club. We can't do this alone. And I did. And it was great. And I actually landed up running comrades, and I ran it twice, in 2018 and 2019, and I ran it unaided. So without a guide, that's what I mean. And I absolutely loved running. And in 2019, December, Dion said to me, right, I'm buying you swimming lessons for Christmas. And I said, okay, that's quite interesting. And just the puzzle pieces started falling into place, because in February 2020, I'd done my first Dis-Chem ride for sight, and I'd entered under the disabled category. And how that happened was Retina South Africa actually phoned me and said, we've heard that you're cycling and doing this and this and this. Wouldn't you like to come and join the disabled category? And I said, really? I'm not disabled. And they said, well, actually you are. And I said, okay.
Sorry for the interruption. How did they hear about you?
So when you are diagnosed with a retinal condition, the ophthalmologist does obviously advise you on a few things to do, or suggest that you do. And one of them is, please join Retina South Africa. So in 2006, when I was diagnosed, the ophthalmologist said to me, please join Retina South Africa. And I said, well, who is Retina and why should I do that? And she said to me, well, if clinical trials ever come to South Africa, at least you're on their database, and you will get a phone call to possibly be involved with the Stargardt's trial. We don't have one yet, and maybe only in 15 or 20 years there'll be one, but at least you'll be part of Retina. And then obviously there is other benefits of being part of Retina South Africa. So I joined Retina. And just to jump to that, 15 years later, I was contacted by Retina, and I'd been on my first trial. So the opportunity came. I had to go for testing. They had to see if my lesions were within the scope of the trial for Stargardt's, and I participated in the first Stargardt's trial in South Africa.
Wow, when was that?
That was in February 2020, actually. So. And
has it made a difference to your condition at all?
It hasn't. The trial wasn't successful. However, you know, I think you also, people ask me, well, why did you do it? Weren't you scared? And I said, well, listen, if you can do anything to get your sight back, you'll do it. And there were a few conditions, and one of them was I wasn't able to have any more children for those 2 years. And that was quite a big part of the criteria. So I had to really make that decision. Do I want to do the trial, or possibly try for another child? And I chose to go on the clinical trial, and that was how badly I wanted my vision back, if that makes sense.
Any regrets?
No, none whatsoever. You know,
what did you learn from that episode in your life?
Being on the trial. So it was quite interesting. I had side effects that I hadn't experienced before. One of the side effects was coming in from somewhere light into dark. I do have adaptation. So when I come in from somewhere light to a dark room, it takes a bit of time, but it's pretty quick. There's not much of a delay. But being on the trial, there would be times that up to about 15 minutes I would come into the room and have to just sit because everything was dark. And that was new for me and quite scary, actually. So you have to obviously report on what you're experiencing through the trial. And I wasn't the only person apparently that experienced that. And that's maybe why they didn't actually continue, because it is quite daunting. I mean, I know what I've dealt with what I have, and then to have something like that immediately, you know, you lose all your vision coming into a room, and
scary,
very scary, you know, and is the vision going to come back?
Right.
So that was one of it. But I continued, and I was on the medication for 2 years, and it was interesting. I had to go for blood tests and all sorts over the 2 years with the Eye Institute in Pretoria. But I felt privileged to be on that trial, and I was glad that I was a part of it. And I'm glad that I get to talk about it now as well, and say to people that if clinical trials come, don't be scared, you know. I mean, if you can also make a difference being on that trial, you know, you have the condition, and, you know.
So, Linsey, you've had huge challenges in your life because of your condition. You've been on these trials, but by the same token, it's made you so strong. You've achieved so much in life. You are such a role model to everyone watching us this morning. Talk to us about your successes.
Yeah, so I cycled the Dis-Chem, and I met someone there that had Stargardt's, and he asked me, what's wrong with you? Why are you cycling in the disabled? And I said, well, I have Stargardt's. And he said, really? Well, so do I. And I said, oh, that's interesting, because we both look normal. And he said to me, do you do triathlons? And I said, never in a million years I will not do triathlon. I'm not swimming in the sea. And he said, please come and join us. Just try it out. And when we were driving home, Dion said to me, what have you got to lose? Try it. I've bought you the swimming lessons. You know, you're swimming, you're doing your coaching. Try it. And I said to him, really? In the sea? 2 weeks later, I did my first para-triathlon. It was the sprint distance, and it was in Durban, in the sea, and it was very scary, but I did it, and I knew that I needed to do it for myself. And my husband said to me, he wasn't sure if I was going to make it that day, but I did it, and I felt incredible. I mean, coming out of the sea, and it's a race, and I stood and I posed for photos, and I was just thank God I'm still alive, you know, and I made it. And so my journey started, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So with para-triathlon, you're with a female guide. Well, if you race internationally, you're with a female guide. If you're just local, you can do it with anybody. But I had a lady that helped me. We were swimming together, so we had a stretchy tether on the leg so that I won't lose my way in the sea. She's basically my eyes. I just need to swim. When we're finished with that, we get onto the bicycle, which is a tandem bicycle. I'm on the back, she's my eyes in front. We ride for 20 kilometers. So the swim is 750 meters. We ride for 20 kilometers. And then we do a run for 5 kilometers with a tether. When we just hold it. And that's not stretchy. And I loved it. I loved it. It was something new. And I love cycling, and I loved running. Swimming was something new for me. But I thought, you know, this is something that I can do. And I persevered, and I won nationals. I was then invited to do African champs, which I did in Egypt. And I got gold in Egypt. Wow. Too. And so just, you know, it carried on and on and on. And then I did nationals again, and I did another African champs, and then Commonwealth Games was on the cards. And we weren't sure if we would be selected, because SASCOC obviously has the last say. We knew that they were only taking the top 9 girls in the Commonwealth, and I was there, but we still weren't sure. And then when we were selected, we were absolutely, it was incredible. And we went to the ceremonies, and we, you know, our names were announced. What
year was this in?
This was in 2022.
Wow, okay.
Yes.
Your life's really been full, beautiful, fulfilled, and you are giving hope to other people. Where to from here for you? And of course, how did you fare at the Commonwealth Games?
So I placed 5th at the Commonwealth Games, and it was an absolutely incredible experience. My goal was Paralympics, so what we did was after Commonwealth Games, we did a trip to Wales, because we were within in that region. We did a trip to Wales, we did another thing. So you have to try and accumulate points to stay well rated on the World Triathlon board, if you could say that. So we were trying to accumulate points as we were going, but funding was an issue. So you know, for us to travel together, it became very costly, and unfortunately I didn't manage to carry on and pursue triathlon to take it on to Paralympics, but it was fine. I was okay with that. And what I decided was last year, August, I said to Dion, let's try something new. And we started lawn bowls, and it was so much fun, and it was so different because triathlon is intense, it's hectic training, it's fast, it's, you know, when lawn bowls is quite slow and it's a long game, and it's very strategic, but it was completely different for me. So it was challenging, and with lawn bowls too, I need a director because I can't see the bowls and the jack at the end of the green, because the green is 33 meters long. And Dion volunteered and said he would be my director, and it was so great to have him involved in being with me to do this sport. And we carried on, and then I was brave enough to say, should we enter nationals in March in Cape Town? And Dion was like, what do we have to lose? And we went, and we placed first. We got gold in the singles, and I was invited to play with Princess Schrader. She's one of our pro tiers, and I was her pairs partner, and we got gold in the pairs division as well, and for the B3 category, and it was phenomenal. And so I have goals for lawn bowls too. I've put sort of triathlon one side. I still enjoy it, I still cycle, I still run, but I'm not doing anything competitively with triathlon anymore, but only because I have lawn bowls now, and I absolutely love it.
I'll have to interrupt you there. I do apologize, but of course it's that time we go for our final break. When we get back, we're going to be wrapping up with these two amazing ladies from Retina, South Africa. Welcome back. We have our final 12 minutes of the show this morning with Retina South Africa, and that of course is Claudette MedeFindt and Linsey Engelbrecht, telling us, and all of you watching us this morning, that even though you may be visually impaired, there definitely is a full life out there waiting for you to grab it with both hands. And that's where you come in, don't you, Linsey? Because I understand you've joined Retina South Africa full-time, but in a very, very crucial role. What is it all about?
So I am head of special events and parasport development, and I feel that sport has really empowered me. With my vision loss, I've really been able to live life, and it really has been an incredible journey these last couple of years. So I really believe that anyone with vision loss, if you have just a slight vision loss, or if you're completely blind and you want to try something new, there's no reason why you shouldn't. And we have a significant flagship fundraiser, which is the Discem Ride for Sight, which we've been running for 35 years. And the 2024 event, I was involved with it last year, getting involved. And with the para category, which is anyone with vision loss, someone that has one arm, one leg, so anyone that's disabled, you're able to join the para category, and I managed to get us from 4 entries up to 54 entries this year. And that was just inviting people to come and try cycling. Cycling is quite daunting though, it's not something that you just start doing, but we had some incredibly brave people that contacted me and said we'd love to try it, and so they did, and we got sighted pilots for them on the tandems, we had them at the back of the bike. Some of them had never even been on a bicycle before, and just to see their faces and what they were experiencing was incredible. And then I realized that, you know, this is where I need to be. And so in every event that Retina has, we want to empower anyone with vision loss. So we're giving people the opportunity to join these events. We had a golf day last month at the Royal Johannesburg. Retina South Africa sponsored a para golf team to come and represent South Africa on the greens. There was 4 gentlemen visually impaired. 2 or 3, I think 2 had the same condition as what I do, and 2 had the same as Claudette, and they came with their guides, and Discem didn't even know that they were blind and visually impaired. And when I was doing the prize giving speech and I'd announced that we had a para golf team on, most people were in awe, and it was so great for me to share that with them, you know, that we had these people on the green, and believe me, they are incredible players. And so our next event is our lawn bowls event, which is this Sunday at the Edenvale Bowling Club, and we've invited the visually impaired or anyone really to come and join us. So I think we have at the moment about 16 visually impaired and blind people that are coming on Sunday, some that have never played bowls before, some that play bowls with me now, and I'm honestly so excited. You know, people are going to get to try something new and can get to, you know, try lawn bowls, and believe me, it's not as daunting as getting on the back of a bicycle. So yeah, I think it's really great. And like I said, with every event going forward, the aim would be that we can get our members involved and just get them off the couch and say, come and try this life. It's great. You know, there's something out there for everyone. You know, lawn bowls might not be for you, cycling might not be for you, but you might enjoy swimming, or you might enjoy chess, or something like that. But you know, if you're brave enough and you want to and you have the courage, you can contact me and I'll put you, you know, in connection with the right people to do something that you want to try, and that's what I'm there for. So Parasport Development, that is our new campaign. Save our sight. That's our new campaign.
Claudette, we're going to be wrapping up in about 5 minutes' time, and I do know that you have still so much of importance to share with us. Retina South Africa, your role in our country, why should people be contacting you, and what is it that you're going to say or do to turn their lives around? Because that's what it's all about, is it not?
Absolutely, Julie. You know that vision loss is isolating. It actually cuts you off from things and from people. And there's so many things out there that you can use to help you, like Linsey's doing to help you emotionally and mentally, but there are adaptive devices that can help you with your computer and your cell phone. You can get a guide dog, you can get a cane, but we also want to find out what is it that people need. Sometimes it's just someone to talk to about your vision problems, and we've got trained social workers and we've got trained counsellors, and we actually do a needs assessment and fulfill those people's needs. We also give you advice about nutrition and how changing your lifestyle can actually slow down the degeneration, and we create awareness. We create awareness of all the genetic forms of vision loss, like Linsey Stargardt's and my RP, but other forms. Also, as we mentioned, about diabetic vision loss, a diabetic retinopathy, age-related macular degeneration, and more importantly, this year we've actually partnered and we're getting part of the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness, who have used Eye Care Month and World Sight Day to create awareness of the terrible dangers our young people are facing with high myopia. You know, every child over the age of probably 10 has got either a smartphone or a tablet. They're spending more and more of their time, and of course what it does is their visual focus, their focal length has now shortened, and this is where it is, and this is causing very extreme myopia. What happens normally when a baby's born, their eye is not the right size, so it grows in length and width, so it actually becomes bigger. And unfortunately, the change in our lifestyle is causing this eye growth to extend longer than it should, and for a greater period of time. So we are finding that children who have got severe myopia actually are not spending enough time outdoors. In fact, certain countries like China, for example, have put moratoriums on the screen time that children should be allowed to have. Children under the age of 12 should not have a smartphone. Children over the age of 14 should only have 2 hours of screen time a day, and we need to encourage children to have more outdoor time, 2 hours a day. So we are working to try and create awareness of the dangers, because the Eye Care World Sight Day theme is Love Your Eyes Kids, and parents don't know what children's eyes are actually experiencing, so our message is cut down screen time to as little as possible, and also 20-20-20. Don't look at a screen for more than 20 minutes, then look away for 20 meters, for 20 seconds, and then blink 20 times, because when you blink, it lubricates your eyes. And with that, if we can stop stop this terrible effect of this shortening of their visual space, actually to try and maintain healthy eyes. Because if you have extreme vision growth of your eyeball, it actually thins and affects the retina. So younger and younger people are going to have macular degeneration caused by high myopia.
At a much earlier age.
And at a much earlier age. And there are lenses. People can ask their eye health care practitioner if they are developing myopia. There are brand new lenses that have been developed worldwide, and these lenses will stop that excessive growth of the eye, but so avoiding retinal damage.
They need to stop their usage of their handheld devices. With a few minutes to wrap up time, Claudette, you're very, very concerned. You've mentioned it to me a couple of times off air, and rightly so, the issue around mental health. And obviously, if you have visual impairment, what's the correlation there? Let's talk about and let's make people aware of that phenomena.
Well, you know, when you start losing your vision, you start losing your independence. You become isolated. You might lose your job. You sometimes lose your lifelong partner because they can't handle it. And people become more and more isolated. People with age-related macular degeneration, you're already isolated because you're old, and now you start losing your precious central vision. And Retina South Africa, through counselling and referral, can actually help people. And once we get people to talk in our WhatsApp groups, through our social media, and we also have a lot of webinars to people to talk about their vision loss and their fears, and how people in a similar situation as you have overcome what you're going through. And just being able to converse with people, mix with people, and face your fears and get help. Retina South Africa is here to help everybody with retinal vision loss to come to terms and to, as Linsey said, live your life to your full and make use of the vision you've got today.
So really what you're saying is visual impairment shouldn't be a means or shouldn't place you into isolation. If you seek the support from an organization like Retina South Africa, you can lead a very, very full and fulfilled life. Ladies, thank you indeed. It's been absolutely wonderful having you on the show today, and I've learned a lot by just talking with you, and I have no doubt in my mind that people watching us this morning have learned lots as well, and those with impaired vision will go out and try and seek the necessary help. Thank you, Linsey.
Thank you.
All the very best.
Thank you for having us.
Continue touching lives. And you too, Claudette. Wonderful meeting up with you again. And so good to see that you still are working hard at making a meaningful difference. God bless you both.
Thank you very much.
And that's it. Time for us to wrap up. Thank you indeed for your time. And I do hope you enjoyed the interviews as much as I've enjoyed chatting to these two amazing ladies on the show this morning. Till the next time, as always, a shout out to our production team, and from me, Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz.